The Lucky Sword by Ethan Kerns. I, Mark Kerns, waded through the battlefield like the left hand of God, killing where I deemed necessary. I was an invincible god on the battlefield, untouchable and unstoppable. Wherever I went, the enemy retreated, and wherever my sword flashed, they were slain. I saw a foolhardy man charging at me, swinging his sword wildly overhead. The man swung his sword down at me, which I quickly blocked, and then I performed a riposte, killing the man. The men around me cheered, and I kept on charging at their enemies. I was the legend on the battlefield. I had been fighting the Islamic armies outside of Jerusalem for 2 bloody months, and while my prestige from the battlefield had grown and grown, the Catholic army had gotten nowhere. They had been repelled at the castle of Jerusalem and had made no progress since. It was practically an impregnable fortress. The only way in was the main gate, which was defended by hundreds of archers that constantly rained arrows on anyone who ventured too close, and the only other way of getting in involved scaling 100-foot-high walls. It had been a stalemate situation for 2 straight months, the Christian army not backing off, but not fighting many battles either, because their losses would be too great. Now there was word of Islamic reinforcements coming in from behind the Christian army, threatening to trap them between the reinforcements and the walls of Jerusalem. If they didn't capture the city soon, they were doomed. While the Christian army's luck was fading, my own prestige had been growing. I was a sergeant of the Ninth Crusade and commanded 35 soldiers. My squad had slowly become known to the rest of the army as the Black Company, because wherever we went, death followed. My prowess had only been growing ever since I found a strange sword during one raid on Jerusalem. My company had snuck past the archers during the night and forced their way into one of the side doors of one of the many towers that lined the walls of Jerusalem. While my men were protecting the tower, I was trying to run to the top to signal to the main army that we had found a way in. I ran up several flights of stairs when I ran into an armory. In the center of the room there had been a beautifully ornamented sword, its tip stuck fast into an anvil. Upon seeing it, I knew that I must have it, and I set about prying it from the anvil. I put both my hands on the hilt of the sword and drew it out as easily as if the anvil was made of butter. Relishing my new treasure, I forgot that I had a mission, and my men had to withdraw from the tower. Ever since then, my luck had only grown in battle, and the commanders of the army were starting to notice, and they had recently called to meet me. When I arrived, Lord Godfrey of Bullion stood waiting for me in in his tent. Immediately upon seeing the man, I knelt and said, "My lord." Godfrey replied, "Stand, Mark. I have brought you here to give your company a mission that is integral to the capture of Jerusalem. We found a way to scale the walls of Jerusalem, and we want your company to be the first men to do so." I was honored at the request and said so. I readily agreed to have the glory of capturing Jerusalem, and told Godfrey I would ready my men, and that they would scale the wall next morning. Then Godfrey bid me farewell, and I left. I walked back to my company's tent in shock and told my men their mission, and that they should be ready at dawn. Then I went to sleep to prepare for the coming adventure. My men and I were climbing upside down along a grappling hook line. I had thrown a grappling hook into a window big enough for a person to fit in, and then anchored the end of the line to a large rock below. The Islamic armies didn't heavily guard this side of the wall, so we had 5 minutes to climb into the fortress. They had to make their way to the main. Then we had to make our way to the main gate and open it, letting the Catholic armies in. Uh, Once they had all climbed in, they set off towards the main gate. They were almost there when they encountered. We were almost there when we encountered an Islamic patrol. But before we could alarm the rest of the army that they were invaders, my sword flashed and they fell to the floor, slain. We kept running and finally made it to the main gate. We silently crept up to the mechanism that opened the gate and tried to roll the gate open. It wouldn't budge, however, because it required a key to use. Getting desperate, my men and I tried to force the mechanism, but to no avail. We heard shouts in the distance. We had been spotted, and a whole platoon, 500 men, had been dispatched to kill us. We were doomed unless we got the gate open. The whole Black Company went into a frenzy, slamming the lock in the opening mechanism with no results. They could see the platoon getting close to them. They were just 200 yards away. My men started hacking at the giant iron chain that opened the gate with their swords in frenzied desperation, slowly weakening it. Suddenly, I remembered that my sword had cut the anvil it had been stuck in like butter. Out of options, I swung my sword into the chain, hoping for anything. My sword finally broke the chain, and the gate swung open. The Catholic armies poured through, yelling battle cries of victory. I had done it. I had captured Jerusalem. I was a hero.